I don't have time for the introduction this time. Sorry. Hit the share button because the message is necessary. This one is not just more important than I am. This message is necessary. Listen and share it with the share button and just with word of mouth. You see the title. You want to know right away what idea this is. The most dangerous idea we have regarding colorism? Simple. Most of us actually are not willing to buy into this idea. But it is in the subconscious minds of many of us, the majority of us not believing it anyway, but a minority of us, very vocal and very dangerous, believing this to actually be the truth. Here the idea is. This dangerous idea that is subconscious is the idea that with lesser melanin comes an instinct to discriminate against those with more melanin. In other words, the idea that light-skinned black folks instinctively are going to discriminate against darker-skinned black folks. I have had a similar theory about other races, Western European whites, not even Eastern Europeans, but Western European whites, and about the semi-whites, the Indians, the Pakistanis, the Persians, Afghans, and Arabs, who would have gotten this from the group that actually were the Aryans, the true Aryans, who today would not even be considered white by white folks. But I've had this theory, not that they were born this way, that God created them this way as soon as he made them lighter skinned. My theory has been that that the Aryans started it, and that from practicing this for generations, they bred this as an instinct eventually. And Western Europeans may have done the same thing. My theory is slightly different. And it's a theory. It could be wrong, and I hope it is. I really do. But it's hard to explain to black people why the rest of the world seems to just naturally and instinctively be willing to discriminate against you. And I would say you have to understand who the exceptions are. There are people that don't do that. Southeast tropical Asians in general aren't willing to do that. The Thai and the Burmese are exceptions. Laotians, Cambodians, even Vietnamese. Malaysians, Indonesians, Bruneians, and Filipinos are not discriminatory against you for being dark, even when their women use bleach. That's the funny thing. It's a paradox. They're affected by white supremacy, but they're not willing to discriminate against you for being dark. They don't even seem to have it as an instinct. Stop and think about that. That means that it's not an instinct. That means that humankind is not just naturally born to discriminate against everyone as darker. But a lot of people have agreed to do this. But I'm talking about black folks. We have an idea that lighter-skinned black folk, admixture or not, have an instinct to discriminate against the rest of us. Most of us refuse to believe something like that, and we're not willing to divide the race based on shade and phenotype. That's good. Most of us ain't that stupid. Now, I understand that there's some people who want to reorganize the race for different reasons. Sergeant Willie Pete doesn't even seem to hate us, but he wants to reorganize. A non-black man also wants to reorganize. A non-black man believes that it is an light-skinned motivation. They believe in reorganizing the race because they believe that lighter-skinned black folks are simply not going to be accepted. I beg to differ because I've seen that the majority of the community is really not willing to kick us out. So that's why I take a different approach. Sergeant Willie Pete wants to reorganize the race on the basis that if you're light-skinned, especially if you have other ancestry, then you're not black. That black means completely 100% black, no other admixture. That's his reason. I don't go for it for the reason I just told you. The majority of the community is not willing to kick us out. Most of us understand we are black. The community does not dispute us on that outside of a few jokes. However, let's be honest. The minority is willing to, a lot of colorism crybabies are willing to just make this a divisive issue with hatred. Because this is an issue that the community now has to face, I want you to understand how dangerous it is. If this goes unchecked, but the rage against lighter-skinned races altogether, not of us, well, of us, but no longer us, continues, which it should, by extension, there will be more and more people who will believe that we were born to do this, to discriminate. But that doesn't make sense, because if you're light skinned and a black person, you still come from other black folks. You don't have an instinct to discriminate against your own parents and grandparents. I don't even think that human beings are created with an instinct to discriminate. It has to be an artificially bred in one from generations of practice, if it can even become an instinct to begin with, and I'm not sure it can. It's a theory, I've said. But see, black folks need a unity. And I'm not going to tell you that we can even hope for a unity where we all agree with each other, because we're not only genetically diverse, we're ideologically diverse. The Christian's not going to agree with me about Muhammad ibn Abdullah being a prophet. He never will. Peace be to him. I'll not agree with the Christian about Jesus being God and a son of God. I'll believe that he's a Messiah, but not that he's God, the Son of God. I believe he was born of a virgin, but I don't believe that he's God or the Son of God. So we're not going to agree. If we agree, that means I either became Christian and I seek refuge in God from that happening, or he became Muslim, which I would hope for. We're not going to agree. That's just the beginning of it. Some Africans don't believe in polygyny. Others believe in polygyny. We're not going to all agree, but we do need a unity that is for a practical purpose, and that is of self-defense. If this idea becomes more widespread among us, then the opposite idea will also develop, that the more melanin you have, the stronger your instinct is to fornicate, to dominate others physically and disrespectfully. You see, the whole aggressive thing, that stereotype will also be believed to be a genetic instinct, and that's not true. And then the race will not be able to reconcile with itself so as to form a self-defensive unity. Because right now, let's be honest, we have every reason to be paranoid when we're dealing with folks who are not us, or folks who don't know that they are us. We got every reason to be paranoid. Sometimes with folks who are us. A few nationalities that are us. Your average light-skinned Haitian does not want any more to separate from us. That was a long time ago, and a lot of them were actually willing to kill slave owners just as quickly. But, and even a lot of Cape Verdeans are not against us. So really, you're going to be hard-pressed to find a black admixture that is light-skinned that is against the rest of us. You may not be able to find it. However, when you're dealing with people that are not us, or they don't know they're us, even though they're our offspring, they're our grandchildren, they're our descendants, the Indians, the Pakistanis, the Afghans, the Arabs, the Iranians, when dealing with these folks, and these are really the main ones that are like that, along with some Eastern Asians like the Chinese and the Koreans and some Japanese, when you're dealing with people like this, and they're willing to discriminate, you must keep this in mind, people. You must keep in mind, you must never forget that these folks here got it from someone else. They got it from the Aryans, even before the Europeans actually picked up on white supremacy. The Europeans just took it to another level. But because you've got so many people that are willing to pick us apart like this, it actually makes it more important for us to be ready to practice self-defense collectively, not less important. People need to make this understood. That's why I need you to hit the share button or share the message itself. Black people of any shade do not have an instinct from birth to discriminate against each other. This must be learned, even if other races have this instinct or not. We don't have it, and we need to stop acting like we do. And I know we have it because I've lived it, and others have lived it. Even when people don't hate me per se, some of them simply thought that I was just naturally going to discriminate, and I don't understand why they thought that. Took me a while to piece together that yes, Yes, a lot of black folks think that it just comes as a natural instinct, and they become so impressed when we don't do it. We've fought this internal battle against our white half and conquered it. I don't have an instinct. Even if I have white ancestry, that instinct was never there. There was no victory. I do have the instinct to be aggressive and to hold grudges, but even that has to be behaviorally based. I'm not capable of holding a grudge against black folk until we turn on each other. That's it. I know we're traumatized. I'm not capable of holding a grudge against us because someone else did something to us. And I don't know others who are. I hope that this has been a benefit. And I hope one day this message, I really, 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 really hope that one day this message will no longer be necessary. But in the meantime, I hope it helps. And it will only help if you hit the share button or you spread this message word of mouth. There is no discriminatory instinct in black people of any shade. Thank you for listening. Spread this. Black heart, black mind, black out. Assalamu alaikum.